The world watches as political confusion in North Africa turns allies on allies in vicious warfare. The result is a little-known operation in the North Africa campaign. This operation is critical if the Allies want a foothold in Europe. World War II and the Eyes of the World presents Operation Torch. Just months after landing U.S. troops on the Pacific island of Guadalcanal in August 1942, the Allies saw the need to open up another front. Operation Barbarossa, the German offensive on Russia, has just started. Stalin sees the need to open up another front. The rest of the Allies agree with this need, as it will spread out the limited resources Germany has. So the British and the U.S. start to consider places that would best suit this need. The U.S. thought that going straight to an amphibious assault on France would be the most beneficial. The British, however, having failed to land successfully on the Dippy Beach in France just 2 months earlier in August 19th, 1942, saw that it would not be possible. The British proposed a landing in North Africa. This would not only open up a second front, but also would prevent any use of the Mediterranean Sea for the transportation of materials and supplies by the Axis powers. The majority of U.S. High Command doesn't like this slow approach. At this time, there's much consideration of denying the European First policy, and instead launching more stronger attacks against the Imperial Japanese Army in the Pacific. Just when the U.S. command started to favor this idea, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt did something unexpected. He directly ordered an amphibious assault on North Africa, totally disregarding and vetoing the plans and the rest of the U.S. High Command. Fun fact, President Roosevelt only did this 2 times during World War II, and one of them was during Operation Torch. Landing in North Africa would give the U.S. experience when it came to fighting the German army. Franklin Roosevelt knew also that it would meet the demands of the people. At this point in the war, the American people wanted to face the Nazis, so this would be a great opportunity to gain morale and gain experienced soldiers. The Allies hoped for an easy landing. At this point in 1942, the French occupied most of northern Africa. When Germany invaded France in May of 1940, they left the bottom half of France to act as a puppet state under Germany. They acted as their own government under one condition. They would resist the attacks of any Allied powers, whether it be by ground, sea, or air. The Allies knew this, but still hoped that the French would surrender or retreat. Sources said that it was indeed possible for the French to cooperate. However, others said that the French might still hold a grudge from the actions that occurred in June of 1940 at the Mers el-Khaber harbor. This is when British ships fired upon French ships to prevent their use by German forces, resulting in over 1,300 French casualties and the sinking of numerous ships. Because of this reason, some British generals suggested that the British soldiers wear American uniforms. However, this was decided against, and only a couple commando units wore American uniforms, along with some British ships flying the Stars and Stripes. The Allies decided to take the risk and land in Morocco and Algeria, ordering the attacking units not to fire unless fired upon by French troops. It was great risk. The French in North Africa boasted an army of over 120,000 men, around 500 aircraft, and several warships. Operation Gymnast, as it was known, was later changed to Operation Torch, set to occur in mid-November of 1940. Planners recognized Oran, Casablanca, and Algiers as key targets. Additionally, a landing at Tunis was considered. Landing here would disrupt the supplies to Rama's Africa Corps. However, Tunis was too close to Luftwaffe airfields in Sicily and Sardinia, so an idea was pitched to land at Bone. Landing at Bone would allow for a faster capture of Tunis than troops headed from Algiers, some 300 miles west. After serious consideration, Option 1, which consisted of landing at Casablanca, Algiers, and Oran moving east to capture Bone and Tunis, was decided over Option 2. Option 2, which consisted of landing at Algiers, Oran, and Bone, heading west 500 miles to Casablanca, this idea was ditched, mostly due to the fact that Casablanca was a part of the Atlantic Wall, so traveling 500 miles would give them time to beef up, making it harder to take Casablanca. Since Casablanca was a key landing spot, this idea was scratched. Also, landing at Casablanca would allow the passage of supplies to the rest of the chain if Spain entered the war on the Axis side or the chain was somehow disrupted. The Allies didn't want to mess with a neutral Spain. Though it was neutral, Spain accepted Nazi ideals and favored them slightly. Operation Torch included a three-prong attack, extending Allies' reach as far as Algiers and the Mediterranean. Casablanca was to be stormed by 3,500 troops, U.S. troops, mostly of the 2nd Armored, the 3rd Armored, the 9th, and the 3rd Infantry, led by George S. Patton. They were to depart from the United States. The garrison landing at Oran comprised all American troops of the 1st Infantry and 1st Armored, with the British Navy escorting them. The landings at Algiers was to be landed by 10,000 U.S. troops of the 34th Infantry and around 23,000 British troops of the 78th Infantry Division, along with 2 commando units. The landings at Oran and Algiers were to depart from England. Followed by this was the first ever U.S. airborne landings by the 2nd Battalion of the 509th Parachute Infantry Battalion. They were tasked with taking 2 airfields near the landing site at Oran. At last, it looked like the Allies were ready to open a second front. Operation Torch was a go, planning to take place on November 8, 1942. In late 1942, the German army was struggling to capture Stalingrad, and the fight to take the Caucasus is still ever going. Amidst this fierce fighting with Russia, Oran Rommel is focused on holding the ground that has just recently been taken in Egypt. Rommel is trying to hold it from the capture by British troops in the south. Days before the landing, the Axis noticed suspicious buildup of Allied ships near Gibraltar. Despite France's voiced concerns, Germany disregards this as another supply run to Malta. Little did they know that over 850 ships lay waiting to land in North Africa. On November 7, a day before the landings, French pro-Allied General Antoine attempted a coup d'etat in hopes that they would be able to peacefully surrender to the Allies. However, this failed, and he was surrounded by troops. Because of this, coastal defenses were able in multiple places to prepare for the inevitable invasion. Despite this, on November 8th, the US, led by George Patton, landed at around 8 a.m. The French were not too happy with this, and a naval battle interrupted during the landings that resulted in numerous French ships sunk, along with the damage of 2 US ships. The French did open fire on the US from a coastal battery. However, Allied ships opened fire and quickly silenced these cannons. Despite this trouble, the beach was secured later on November 8th. On November the 10th, the French at Casablanca surrendered an hour before the last assault was to occur. In the far west, at the landing beach Serif, the troops landing there were halted by French snipers. Later in the afternoon of the 8th, the landing units took the beach and managed to pin down the rest of the garrison there. Later in the afternoon of the 8th, the landing units took the beach and managed to pin down the rest of the snipers and defenders, making them surrender by November 10th. The units at the Saifi landing zone then rushed to help at Casablanca. The other landing zone at Port Lyautey, despite being a bit behind schedule, was captured with relative ease. On the third landing beach, in the Oran zone, the westernmost zone was taken with some delay and confusion. When carrying out the reconnaissance for the beaches, no one actually landed on the beach to test the capability of landing there. Unlike the landings at Omaha, Utah, and the other beaches at Normandy, much planning and consideration was put into the landings there, and even people went onto the beach to test the sand and the durability of the landing conditions. So, the water was unexpectedly shallow, and the sandbars were a little too high. This caused some damage to the landing craft. But aside from this small problem, the beach was taken. On the eastern beach, the 1st Ranger Battalion landed and quickly captured a zone battery at Arzu. The landings on the Oran harbor had some problems. Amidst the invasion of the harbor, some U.S. equipment was destroyed, complicating landings there. Aside from this, French ships broke out from the harbor and a naval battle between the French and British ships pursued. eventually ending in a British victory. The British ships then bombarded Oran's beach, bringing about the surrender of the beach on November 10th. The airborne troops that were supposed to land just outside of Oran and take the airfields were scattered because of radio and communication issues, resulting in many stranded and captured soldiers. However, the airfields were eventually captured, though the significance of the participating troops and the airfields was minimal. Like at Casablanca, the French had tried to stage a coup. However, this failed. Like the rest of the beaches on November 8th, 3 beaches in the Algiers district were stormed, 2 west of Algiers and 1 east. The US 34th Infantry and the British 78th Infantry, along with a couple commando units, landed basically unresisted. The British tried to land a party of US Rangers, however, directly onto the dock at Algiers. They were hoping to prevent the destruction of port facilities and the scuttling of ships. The British succeeded in landing 250 Rangers before heavy artillery fire drove them back to sea. The troops at Algiers pushed quickly inland, and the city surrendered to the Allies at around 6 p.m. Now here on the screen you can see all of the participating units, whether it be French, German, or even the US and British. The Allies stormed the beach for Operation Torch with almost 110,000 men and around 850 ships. The following days resulted in 526 American deaths, along with 574 British deaths, and over 750 of all the Allies combined were wounded. Aside from this, the Allies lost 15 ships, including the HMS Avenger, which cost the lives of an additional 516 men. The French lost over 1,350 men, not to mention almost another 2,000 men wounded. The French also lost 14 sea vessels. Aside from this, the Germans and Italians lost around 20 subs by the end of the operation. On November 10th, the Allies made an agreement with the French and resistance ceased almost completely. The French troops that were not captured joined the Allies and helped the British and American forces to push to Tunisia. Once Hitler learned of this betrayal, he ordered the occupation of the rest of Vichy France, removing its government and its deal. The Germans took back much of Tunisia as possible, pushing back the French to the British and American lines. After Operation Torch, the Allies would then push west towards Tunisia, which was held by German forces. The Germans at this time had been flying in troops, building up quite a considerable foe. The Allies started a major offensive on November 25th with the hopes of taking Tunis. However, this was postponed by the Tunisian wet season. However, the Allies managed to take Tunis on May 13th, 1943, finally pushing the Axis out of North Africa, exactly 7 months and 5 days after the start of Operation Torch, ending the war completely in the North African theater. Now, some may say that the North African campaign just added another year to the war, but attacking Africa first gave the US an opportunity to face the Germans and get an idea of how they fought. While at this, the US gained some battle-hardened troops and a lot of experience. Franklin Roosevelt turned out to be right. It may have added a year to the war, but in the end, many lives were saved. Operation Torch turned the tides of the war, opening another front the Axis could not handle, and while at it, managing to penetrate the soft underbelly of Italy. At this point, the Germans should have been sending troops to Russia to help with the offensive. However, this little distraction turned out to give a little foothold to the Allies, which eventually cost the Axis victory. Now, I hope you all liked this video. A lot of effort was put into this video. It was so fun to make, and I'm really happy that we got it out to premiere on November 8th. This is the 80th anniversary of Operation Torch, which is a really big thing, and it's just really cool. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something. I really enjoyed making it, and I thank you guys so much for watching the video. So that wraps up the video. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you can see when we come out with new videos. I'll try to be posting a video every month, and I even have some bonus stuff coming on the way. So So make sure you subscribe for that stuff that comes in the future. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.